Well, good morning, everybody. How are you today? Welcome, Glue Troopers. And today I'm back to the studying, and somebody loves the iPad. So, getting ready to. I actually did some studying last night. That's why I wasn't out doing model building. And you want to read the morning news there? Mm-hmm. So, I was wondering about something that, drag the iPad out, and get ready to start, studying. I think just the other day, I was looking at pictures online of the Golden Knights Twin Otter that I'm going to, so that got halfway built. It's actually a pretty straightforward paint scheme. I'm gonna pre-paint everything before I put the wings on and stuff because the wings are black with gold or yellow tips. The underside has a black oval. The gear is black, which is ironically molded in black. Engine is solar black. And the tail fin's black. For the most part, paint the rest of it white and put the decals on. It should be fairly straightforward. And so the I found I forgot the Golden Knights also have a Dash 8300 now, as well as a couple of Fokker 27s, and 6 or 7 airplanes in the fleet now. And the Twin Otters are primarily used for close stuff, competition stuff near Fort Bragg because they're a very slow airplane. And it got me thinking about reference photos and how many of you had, going back before the days of the internet, had to paint your model airplane or your model car, model tank based strictly on the box art or the photograph of the model that was done, maybe something on the instruction sheet. I can't count the number of models that the paint scheme on them was largely just guesswork because we didn't have the interweb. No, we did not, my little precious. We did not have the internet in those days. We used artistic license. And that's one reason, of course, the squadron books were so popular, was because they had all these great walk around photos and everything. And I can remember getting a picture of an airplane that maybe, black and white photo from a family album, or maybe see it in an encyclopedia or an airplane book, or maybe a full color picture in an airplane magazine. But still, unless they did a full walk around, you were just guessing. The natural curiosity of a model builder, of course, you want to make it better. And you go, I know what I'll do. I'll go to a museum. They get everything right. Back in the 80s, or 90s, I guess, the internet was still new. When I was building my Florida Air National Guard F-102 and 106, I said, I know what I'll do. They have, back when they were just parked out front of the guard unit, they have some of just about everything the guard flew on display out in front of the guard unit. And I knew a couple of people in the, I believe it's the 125th FANG, Florida Air National Guard, a fighter interceptor squadron. Anyway, so I toddle out there, and much to my, actually, I might have found the pictures online, but much to my utter dismay, the aircraft were very low fidelity. They weren't. They were painted in the air superiority gray, and they had the lightning bolt on the tail. But I think the cockpits had been gutted, no shock there. But they just, for some reason, they just seemed to lack some of the detail. And they were like, well, yeah, a lot of these gate guards, they don't pull an airplane off the line and park it out there. They find one in a desert or something and send it to a company that paints it, and they often don't have any better resource material these days than a model builder does. And it's just a static display out front. And also, I guess the paint they use on them and stuff, they know they're just going to be parked outside, so sometimes they black out the windows to prevent decay, and they'll use sometimes even an off-color paint. But I was surprised when I went out to camp they have near here where the National Guard trains, just south of Jacksonville. And gosh, I can't believe the name's escaping me right now. But anyway, I drove by and they had some vehicles on display and a truck and a half track and stuff. And the green on them looked wrong. And it didn't really look like olive drab. Now, the Army has used more than one shade of green, of course. Yeah, well, that's because they spend a lot of time baking out in the sun because they're all outdoor displays. And so I was like, well, son of a gun, you know, it's now you go to the Air Force Museum or something, everything's just spot on, but they're reasonably well funded. Same for the Army Aviation Museum or Pensacola Naval Air Museum. But a lot of times these static displays or smaller museums, they just have to do the best they can. So again, you're back to you these days with less. We can go back to the internet, but nothing beats a good full color photo that's taken of the thing when it's in service. And when you get those, you start to realize how many of these static display aircraft and stuff. Oh, she's purring. And vehicles are, I don't want to say they're marked wrong, but they're just, it's like the markings are very basic. For example, okay, here's an example of what I'm talking about. You know how the military loves to stencil on lettering all over the aircraft, you know, jet exhaust and danger and use only, you know, tire pressure 30 pounds and all that kind of stuff. A lot of times that kind of stuff's missing because they don't have the stencils. And the people who are doing the airplane, they don't know. So that was done by some crew chief, you know, who worked on the airplane every day, and probably had a pre-made stencil or something like that. And depending on how much you want to detail it's so much easier now to get the details right than when we were kids. My gosh, I don't know how many times I painted a model airplane with the box top sitting in front of me because that was my only reference on it. It was one nice thing about when the company would shell out to have those side panels with different angles of the model or something. And you want to know? It's just gonna be a second. And okay, it's really irritating me that I've forgotten the name of a military and army, especially since I was in the Army. I was there not that long ago, and there's a military camp down the road, primarily I believe a National Guard or Reserve base, and I can't remember the name of it. And everybody around here does like I fly over the thing all the time. As soon as I see it, I'm going to go Camp Landing. Gosh, I can't believe I forgot that. Well, as long as I got these pictures up, I wonder if there's some images of the vehicles on display. And, well, anyway, I was just a little surprised when I saw them that they picked that color scheme. And I'm not saying it's wrong because a lot of these are vehicles from the 50s and stuff and even the 40s. So they may actually be correct to the period, but it's certainly not the color they have on. Well, I shouldn't say that. I guess we had some kind of greens. The green seemed a little bright. Of course, they've been sitting in the sun a long time. And, oh, well, there's the Florida. Okay, I don't remember ever seeing this. This is a Florida Air National Guard F-106 marking like the one I got. I don't remember seeing one on a stick like that. Of course, I haven't been out there in forever. F-106A was dedicated in 2001 Florida Air National Guard Heritage Exhibit at the Camp Blanding. Oh, so they got the F-106 at Camp Blanding in honor of the Guard. Well, that is freaking wicked cool. And it just tells you how long it's been since I've been out there. God, I love the F-106. So we call it the Sexy Six. And, see, I didn't even know about that. Let's see, oh, all kinds of pictures of it going on display. Huh. Oh my gosh. They're picking up with a crane. There's the Cobra. There we go. Here, okay. Yeah, here we go. The half track. Now maybe I'm wrong. I saw it from the highway a long time ago on a really bright day. This does look like a more accurate color than I remember. I seem to remember being sort of a brighter greener color, but I guess that may be correct. I just saw it going down, passing down from the highway. So just retract what I just said, I guess. Uh-huh. Okay, the K here. That's what I remember it looking like. You see? Can you see that green? Um, Interesting. I'm not sure. Okay, why does this thing listed as a GMC 2.5 ton amphibious 6-wheel duck? That's the picture below it. Yeah, these are the Camry. Okay, yeah, these are the old vehicles. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. You guys tell me. Does that green look correct? You know, I'm sure a lot of you model builders who build a lot of military vehicles know more than I do. And I'm showing you these photos like this instead of superimposing them because I have to get to studying, so I don't have time to do the morning editing like I was going to do. And actually, that's not a 2.5 ton truck. No, it says 2.5 ton truck, so it's only a 6-wheeler. Well, that's a lot of 2.5 tons are 6-wheelers. Some have the front wheels front and back, and some have them side by side. Well, I guess I better quit goofing off and get to it. I've got a lot of studying to do, and they should call me today or tomorrow to firm up my schedule. They could change it. It's always possible they could push it back to December, in which case I'll have more time to focus on finishing the models because I wanted to study quite as hard. But I got into books last night, and my how can I put this? My fear had come to fruition that I'd forgotten about as much as I thought I had, but it's not like forgetting how to fly or anything. It's just there's a lot of little details you have to get right. So, but I got all my training aids together, and things like the memory items and stuff. I've been flying the same airplane for 15 years, so that stuff comes back very quickly. But there have been some procedural changes since I went out in March, not the least of which is everybody's wearing masks now. So when I do finally go back to work, it's just going to be kind of weird. I haven't been to an airport yet, a room full of people full of masks. There's a diorama for you. That was not a suggestion. In fact, don't do that. And the way I got it broken down is I figure I'll study a few hours in the morning, a couple hours. That's about all I'm good for these days. And I'll do some what I call chair flying, where you literally imagine you're in the cockpit and you go through every single switch. You do your flows in your sleep, and you send the ACARs, and you get the ATIS, and you do the fit for duty, and you really have to muscle memory yourself into that stuff because the no one thing that we do is that tough, but there are and hundreds of them. And when I first got into flying, you walk around the plane, make sure everything looked right. You hopped in, checked the fuel. And the first airplane I flew, which was a 19-seater, did not have an auxiliary power unit, so the plane wasn't even powered. So we would board the passengers, the airplane completely turned off. No flight attendant was the first officer. I was the flight attendant. And I'd come back and give them their brief. And there was no flight management system or computer load. We flew VOR to VOR. And that's a variable on range receiver. That's basically flew nav aid to nav aid to nav aid. And we had paper charts, but we flew the same route every day. It was all committed to memory. But you literally, cranked up the plane, taxied out the runway, did your run up. The first flight of the day, you did have to do run ups, and they wanted us to do that. They preferred that we did that before we loaded any passengers. So we jump in the plane, go down in the taxi down in the runway, do the run ups, which is in colder weather was a good way to warm it up, and then taxi back. But you could do it with passengers on board. And you do a run-up check and a turbine also, yeah, turboprop as well as a prop. You don't do them in jets. And a lot of that has to do with propellers and the gearing mechanisms. And one thing is you want to get warm oil into those propeller hubs. Ooh, she's on the alert. Oh, she wants me to stroke the back of her head. That's it. There you go. Anyway, so what's going on now, of course, is you do all the checks before you do a bunch of checks. Then you power up the aircraft, and it has a lot of built-in test equipment or bike tests. And you get power on it, and you do all your checks. But then a lot of it, it's funny, most of it's in the pre-planning. I have to send off data on me in the first office. We had to send off what's called our fit for duties. Then we have to get the airport terminal information system. We have to, our releases are 20, 30 pages thing. We have to read the notices, notice to airmen, and make sure there's nothing about the airport. And it's all tiny print and everything. It drives you bananas. It's all coded. And come on, guys, just print it in simple English. We're not in the day of 300 baud modems anymore. But of course, fortunately, on the iPad, you bring everything. You also program it in the iPad, and the iPad converts everything to normal English. Hallelujah. So you go through all that, and you send off aero data to get your takeoff data. And I think the reason I'm talking about to you guys about this is it's good for me. It's kind of getting my brain back into gear. You have to put the entire flight plan, including the departure and everything, into the flight management system. Everything's planned in advance. Now, of course, you have the ability to amend it in flight because things change. Of course, you get the weather, and you have to make sure that you're not flying under any kind of an exemption. You have to look at the maintenance log on the airplane, make sure everything's working, or if there are any MEOs or minimum equipment list, how it's going to affect the flight. If there's a CDL, a configuration deviation list. For example, this airplane is missing a fairing someplace, that's going to change your fuel burn. So that you have to make sure all that's in the aero data and everything, which should automatically be logged in. We don't do the weight and balance. The old days, we just jumped into it, scratched out the pot cap and scratched out a weight and balance on a piece of paper. Oh, well, I mean, it was a form. Handed a copy to the gate agent. I'd button up the door, brief the passengers while he was cranking the engines off. We went. Vroom. Engines on, got torque, you got tunes, and you're out of there. And of course, nowadays it's a much more formal procedure. But once everything's loaded, now we do the one engine taxi, which I've done before. And you're off to see the wizard. And now, to save fuel, what they've started, and I mean, it's not something that I don't know how to do. It's just it was not a routine practice before. Was you have the auxiliary power unit going in the tail to keep the plane electrified. They push you off the gate, and then you, once you're clear, you start engine number one. And now they want you, as soon as one started, they want you to shut off the auxiliary power unit just to save fuel, let engine one pressurize the plane, everything. You taxi out to the runway, and then when you're a few minutes from takeoff, you cross bleed start. You just rev up engine number one enough to provide an air source to start number two, and keeps the maintenance down on the APUs and things like that, and saves a wee bit of gas. Thing is a lot of the airports I fly out of, the takeoff is so quick. A lot of times in Puerto Rico, you push off the gate, you're in the air in 4 or 5 minutes. So that's not really necessary. A lot of times we just start both engines and then shut off the APU because we're going to be there. That'll be the end of the runways right there. But if you're doing a 2-hour taxi out of Kennedy, yeah, you're going to be, you definitely save some fuel that way. And I've prattled on enough about that. I actually did that more for me than for you. I want to thank you for listening. Guys, I got to get to the studying. Didn't mean to ramble on so long. So, how many times as a kid did you paint a model based solely on what was on the box art or the instruction sheet as your sole reference guide for painting and decaling? Okay, honey, you have to let go of me. I have to turn off the camera now. The folks have to go. They have to model on. You don't look at me like that. I'll be right back. I swear, I'll be right back. Model on.